or welcome back to my channel. My name is Jerso and today I am here with my best slash most surprising reads of 2020. Now before this video I already uploaded my worst slash disappointing reads of 2020, so if you have yet to check that out, I will leave it linked down in the description box below as well as linked up here in the cards, so please do go and watch. But this video I am very excited about. I love talking about the books that I've loved reading during the year, and I feel like I have a pretty good list here, mix of everything. I have some contemporaries, I have some fantasies, I have a thriller, I have some romances, so we're just gonna get started. Okay, so the first book that I have to talk about today is The Arrangement by Robyn Harding. There we go. So this book, we follow our main character Natalie. She is a college student who attends art school in New York City, and she's really struggling for money, and one of her best friends makes a suggestion that she becomes a sugar baby or finds herself a sugar daddy. So Natalie does that, and through this sugar daddy website she meets Gabe, and Gabe is like 30 years older than her, and they start a sugar baby sugar daddy relationship, and things start getting heated, and Gabe abruptly ends their relationship, and we kind of get to go through how they met, Natalie's thought process through all of that, and just how she's feeling and everything like that, and we follow this relationship from beginning to the end. Natalie is also struggling with a kind of situation back home that she escaped from, and there is a lot more to Gabe than he's leading on. So I really enjoyed this book. It was really thriller. It wasn't really a thriller. I wouldn't categorize it as a thriller. It's more a little bit of a suspense, but I really enjoyed the plot of this book. I felt like it kept the book moving. Natalie just kept making decisions, and I was just like, girl, what are you doing? And we all know I love a messy book, and this just, the characters were messy, the plot was messy, just it was a beautiful mess, and I loved it. There are several content warnings for this book, including physical abuse, so do please look into the content warnings before picking this one up, but I absolutely loved it and I would definitely recommend. The next book that I have to share that I really enjoyed was Tell Me Lies by Carola. This is a very hard-hitting contemporary. In this book we follow our main character, I think her name is Lucy. We follow our main character Lucy, and Lucy comes from this rich high society, and she's really trying to leave that. So when it's time to go to college, she escapes to California just to leave her life behind a little bit. And during her freshman year of college she meets this guy named Stefan, and Stefan is like this bad boy-esque type person. I really don't know how to describe him, but so they start somewhat of a relationship, and this book basically follows their entire relationship through college and partly post-college. This one does have a lot of hard-hitting topics, so there are a ton of content warnings for gaslighting, abusive relationships, eating disorders, drug abuse. Just, this is another one you're gonna have to look into the content warnings for if you do want to read it. But this book was so moving and touching. We get to see Lucy and Stefan's relationship for exactly as it is, and just how Stefan manipulated Lucy and how Lucy fell into those manipulations and things like that. And it really showed just, I don't even know, like, I loved how the author chose to show this relationship. It's just really moving, and it shows the dangers of abusive relationships, how friendships are important in relationships and things like that. And I think this one was such a great read, so moving, and I would highly recommend this one. So the next book that I'm going to be talking about is The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid, and this was beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So in this book there is the reclusive Hollywood star Evelyn Hugo, and she does not really talk to journalists, and she's never really explained her whole life story. And she was super popular in the 80s, and no one really knew anything about her. She was never really open, and one day she chooses an up-and-coming magazine journalist, Monique Grant, to write her autobiography. Now, Monique doesn't really know why someone as popular as Evelyn would choose her, who is like basically a nobody in the magazine world, to write her autobiography. But she accepts, and we kind of follow Evelyn's life through stardom throughout, and the story is told in parts of each husband that she was married to during the time, because she was married to so many people. Everybody always wonders like which husband she loved the most, or which one she was really into. So it kind of is like like it's her story. We get to learn all about Evelyn and why she chose Monique to write this autobiography for her. And I absolutely adored this book. Taylor Jenkins Reid has instantly become an instant buy author for me. It was just so good. I felt like Evelyn was an actual real star that I was reading about, and it was just so perfectly written, and it was so good. I also read Daisy Jones and the Six by the same author, and I really enjoyed that one as well, but I loved Evelyn a little bit more. So next we're going to go into our romances. Yes, I'll talk about romances next. So the first romance that I'm going to be talking about is Take a Hint, Dani Brown by Talia Hibbert. So this book is the second book in a companion series, the first being Get a Life, Chloe Brown, and the third is coming out this year, which is Act Your Age, Eve Brown, or something like that. But I have that pre-ordered. It's so excited. So in each of these books we follow one of the 3 Brown sisters, and we basically follow their relationships and get to learn more about each sister. This one we obviously follow Dani. So Dani is a type A workaholic professor, and she kind of doesn't have really time for relationships. She's kind of a friends with benefits, one and done, one night stand type of gal. And she has this friendship with a security guard at the college she teaches, and his name is Zaf. And Zaf is a ex-rugby player who has gone through kind of a traumatic experience. Those two have a friendship, and it's kind of, this book has a friends to lovers, fake date and fake dating trope, which is just amazing. I loved it. So one day Zaf and Dani are pictured together and rumors start spreading that they are a couple, and Zaf runs a non-profit organization, so this really helps his organization gets out there. So they decide to fake date as long as Dani gets to have her little one-night stand, and we kind of follow their romance, and it was just so amazing. Zaf is like the sweetest person ever. Dani is so relatable. The spicy scenes are just to die for, but there's so much more to this book than just the relationship. You really get to see both characters grow apart and together, and I really enjoy it, and I can't recommend this series enough. The next romance that I have to talk about is The Hating Game by Sally Thorne. I read this in my Reading 3 Romances reading vlog, so if you have yet to check that out, I'll leave it linked down below as well as up in the cards as well. In this book we follow Lucy and Joshua, and these two come from different publishing houses, and they are forced to work together and kind of have a competition to get a running promotion. And it's another hate to love romance, and we kind of follow these two as they're vying for the top position, and of course a romance ensues, and it was just amazing. I feel like I've gushed about this enough, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but the characters were amazing. The third act break thingy didn't annoy me like most romances, and I just thought this was like perfectly done, absolutely beautiful, great, and I would recommend this as well. Okay guys, sorry for the camera change. My battery died. If there is a change, I don't know. So the next book on my list is, I think, the only thriller that I do have on this list, and it literally, I feel like everybody knows what this is by now because I talk about it all the time. I stand this book. I will read anything this author puts out. I love it, and it is My Lovely Wife by Samantha Downing. This is a thriller about a married couple who has a hobby of killing women, and there's this, you kind of follow how they choose these women and what's going on in their relationship that they want to do things like this, and that's pretty much all I'm going to say because I feel like that's all you need to know to enjoy this book. And I just felt like this book was sick. It was twisted. The characters were just not okay in my opinion, but that just made it even better. I absolutely love the twist in this book, and this is one book that I will recommend all the time. When anybody asks me for a book, this is my go-to. I absolutely loved it. I adored it. It was so great. So I only have a couple more books left. The next book that I want to talk about is The Invisible Life of Addie Larue by V.E. Schwab. In this book it is, it's like a fantasy novel in which we follow our main character Addie, and Addie, I think in the year 1714 in France, Addie wants to escape an arranged marriage, so she makes a deal with the god of night that she wants to be immortal, and he grants this, but he does this without telling her that in order to gain immortality, she will be forgotten by everyone she meets. So she won't be remembered by her mom, her dad. Once she makes eye contact with somebody, if they turn around or break eye contact, they automatically forget who she is. She's not allowed to say or write her name. She's not allowed to tell stories or memories at all. And she really can't leave her mark on the world at all. So it's a dual timeline, so we're following her from 1714 all the way into, I think it's 2014, present day New York City. And Addie's we basically follow Addie's 300 years of life up to present day New York City, where she meets a guy in a bookstore called Henry, and he ends up remembering her name somehow, and there is a romance that sparks between them. And we kind of follow that story. It's really hard. I feel like that's a good way to describe it. I absolutely loved this story. The writing was so beautiful. I absolutely love the writing. I feel like the writing made me feel parts of this book so much more. There's not a lot of plot that happens in this book, so if you are a plot driven reader, you probably won't like this. It's really more character driven. It's more of a reflective story. At least for me, it was more of a reflective story of what it really means to have connections in your life, what it means to have relationships and friendships, and to be able to have that lasting impact that you don't really think about because you just speak to people every day and you write stories, or you can write your name, and you don't really think about the importance of all those things. And this book really just pulled at my heartstrings. I absolutely loved it. I definitely don't think that this is a book for everyone. Like I said, if you are a plot-driven reader, you probably won't like this, and if you're not into very lyrical writing, you probably won't like this either. But I honestly think that everybody should give this a try, at least like the first couple pages, to see if you like it. But I absolutely loved it. Made me cry. 5 out of 5 stars. So the next couple books that I have to talk about are from the same author. I discovered their work this year, and I'm so glad that I did. All her books have become instant favorites of mine, but I'm in the middle of one of her series right now. But it's no other than Sarah J. Maas. Absolutely a hoe for her writing. An absolute hoe for her writing, okay? So the first book that I ever read by her was House of Earth and Blood. And this is book 1 in her new adult fantasy series, Crescent City. So in this book is so hard for me to describe. I've tried several times and I just don't know how to really put it into words, but it's best that you go into this not reading the synopsis, because I feel like it makes the experience of the book so much better. But you know what, I'm just gonna give it a try. In this book, we follow our main character, Bryce Quinlan, and Bryce is half human, half fae, and there are a series of murders going on in the city, and they thought that they had the murderer behind bars, but it turns out a couple years later the murders start again. So the government officials kind of ask Bryce if, well, not really ask, they kind of demand her to help figure out who's behind these killings. And in order to do this, she has the help of one of the archangels, Hunt, and both Bryce and Hunt kind of work together to figure out why these murders are happening and who's responsible. And of course, I don't even know if it's a romance, but it's like a very slow burn, angsty romance that happens between Bryce and Hunt, and it's just so good. The first 100 pages or so of this is it's kind of confusing. I really had to push through this, especially it being like my first like adult fantasy. Like I had to just kind of work my way through, but after a while things just start clicking, and it's just the story moves so quickly. It kind of lags in the middle just a little bit, but I still really enjoyed it. I cannot wait for the second book to come out. I'm really hoping that it comes out this year. But yeah, I absolutely love it, and I think it's definitely worth the read. So after reading House of Earth and Blood, I was like, I need more. I need more of this author's writing. I need more of their stories. And I was hearing a lot about the Court of Thorns and Roses series. So, of course, I had to pick it up. Thorns and Roses series is a 3-book series. First book is Court of Thorns and Roses. The second book is A Court of Mist and Fury. And then the third book is A Court of Wings and Ruins. So, the first book I really didn't like that much, but I pushed on, and I will have to say A Court of Mist and Fury is by far my favorite of the series. I absolutely love this book. Just, if you don't like this one when you read it, please keep reading, because the story takes a turn for something that you probably wouldn't expect, and I absolutely loved it. So in this series, we follow our main character, Feyre, and she's kind of the sole provider for her family. She is a human, but in this world, there is a wall dividing the humans and the Fays. So, one day, Feyre is out hunting, and she accidentally kills a Fey shapeshifter, and the Fays kind of come and grab her because she has broken a part of the treaty by killing one of their people. So when she enters the Fey world, she kind of learns that there's a darkness that is taking over the world that could impact their world as well as the humans, and it's kind of up to her to save the world, basically. And so in the first book, we follow her as she goes through these trials and tests so that the darkness could be lifted up, and we just get that. I absolutely fell in love with these characters. Sarah J. Maas just writes amazing characters that you just fall in love with, and their development throughout the series is just amazing. Absolutely loved it. I cannot wait to reread this series. It's such holds a special place in my heart. There is going to be a sister series to this that's coming out in February, and you already know that I'm gonna read it because we just love Sarah J. Maas over here. But the political aspects of this world was amazing. The characters were amazing. The atmosphere was amazing. And it's just, being back in this world just feels like a warm hug. And I absolutely would recommend it 1,000 times over. So that is it for my best and most surprising books of 2020. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you do, and I'll see you guys in another video soon.